Happy Friday. Welcome to the last word. We're having some technical fun today. And so maybe for the folks that are here, maybe you should put some questions in the chat or funny things that we can bring forth or opinions of the week because we're adjusting in real time as well. So it's kind of fun. How was your week, Christy?
My week was actually really, really good. A little bit of time on the road. And in fact, you and I got to hug in person. It was amazing.
Very
Now we're not
quickly, I
close.
flew in and out on my broomstick very quickly to the great state of Texas this week. And so that was good. Did you have any new learnings?
I did have, it's so funny. Every time you get a chance to interact with humans in person, there's this opportunity to learn and grow and develop and just hear what's on their minds and to hear what people are talking about. So I think first and foremost, I'm going to play KP right now.
Okay. I like that.
Because everybody was so optimistic. They're like, pipelines are up and margins are more stable. And, this is the trend in the industry that people are like, wow, we're seeing things fill up. We're seeing things move forward. It brings its own sense of optimism and it's a virtuous cycle. And people are like, okay, and now I feel great. I want to get out and make some more sales calls and do some more things. And it's creating that additional continuous volume.
Yeah. I think it's, my question to you is, do you think it's optimistic?
So I think that we're going through this cycle. What does Kevin call them? He calls them boomlets.
Gimlets?
We're having some boomlets.
Oh, boomlets. I was like, I used to love a good gimlet, not with like real lime juice, not with the roses.
Well, with mortgage lending folks, there's generally always a bar of some sort hanging around. And so, I think that the optimism is well placed because we've been through a cycle of craziness. And I think that if you have stuck it out this far, you're probably going to make it over the hump. It's kind of what I used to tell my husband. I've been married 31 years. And like when we got to year 10, I was like, okay, I feel like we've made it over the hump. Like this is going to work out. And then like year 25, I'm like, all right, I'm really sure now, right? 25 years in, we're going to make it. I think we're good.
Being married to somebody for 25 years and hating it?
No, I can't. But I know that I'm sure there are people who do that. But I think that's like, if you're in this industry and you've made it through the last 5 years and you are still here, I hold out some optimism for you that you're going to make it and that the business is going to continue to be good to you. I still think it's going to be a challenging business. I think that the winter season is going to be a winter. And you're going to see
winter is here.
Have you watched that show? I haven't watched it, but people talk about it all the time. Winter is here. So I do agree with you that that's coming.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying. We've seen so much consolidation in so many marketplaces, I would say, including mortgage. I think mortgage technology has built a lot of consolidation in the past few years, right? Vendors are still vulturing out there for, all of the work that they can get. And I think that that's like a healthy optimism though, or a realistic optimism. We should color your optimism because it's not like unabashed optimism. It's just kind of like, hey, look you made it through the hard times and there's got to be better times ahead for the mortgage industry. But what about this government shutdown? What are you seeing in terms of its impact? Did you like how Brian viewed that? That was my pivot.
You're like, whoa, let's go.
I'm so measured and presidential.
Well, as you know, the government impact changes the longer it happens, right? What it looks like at day one versus what it looks like in a week, what it looks like at 3 weeks and at 4 weeks, right? We can all make little changes and we have enough work when it's a short-term thing. I think this one's going to drag out, right? There are some big issues that Washington is dealing with that don't look like they're going to get solved over the weekend.
Yeah.
And so I think we're going to have some trouble.
I agree with you. So what I would report from the street, from the consumer street, Wi-Fi is sketchy in Seattle. They're working on it. We'll call in the
It's
National
raining.
Guard.
I heard it was
We'll
raining up
call the
there today.
National Guard to fix it. No, but for real, in the last 2 days, my most consistent new issue that I'm seeing are government employees, sometimes members of the military, who now know that they're not going to receive their regular paycheck and are now needing temporary payment assistance. And what are the options for temporary payment assistance if I am a government employee? Interestingly, too, and this is very mortgage related, many of the two that have come through so far both work for the military. And so on top of it, we've had at least some silver lining, because in a market where interest rates existed north of the 6% mark for as long as it did, there are certain SCRA protections that are still at play. Just when we were working in lower interest rates, a interest rate reduction to 6% if you happen to go on active duty, which both of these, military members were, all of a sudden it became relevant. So when they were able to come in last night, for whatever reason, we got the questions last night, and I'm looking at their interest rates online. I'm like, if you're on active duty status, please send us your orders, because we can reduce your interest rate during this time period too, which doesn't make the payment go away. But, forbearance is still the preeminent temporary payment relief. It looks like it's the best solution for folks now. So if you have your clients that are calling you because they are impacted from a regular monthly payment perspective, or the ability to make a regular monthly payment perspective because of the government shutdown, there are solutions available to them.
Well, and I would say there's additional solutions, right? In addition to just being able to worry about their mortgage payment and what they can do on their mortgage payment, they have to be able to feed their families. And for many folks, we know they live paycheck to paycheck, particularly many members of our military, which I have a strong heart for, as my son is active duty along with his fiance, both active duty. So neither one, they're going to work every day and not receiving a paycheck, right? They're still considered essential workers. But if you aren't able to dip into your savings or have some other means, check out your local financial institution, particularly credit unions or community banks.
Yeah.
They have 0% loans for furloughed workers. So members of the military, furloughed workers, check out your local credit union. If somebody comes to you, if you're a mortgage person and you don't happen to be with one of those institutions, and somebody comes and says, hey, what can we do? Then you can take them and, maybe refer them to somebody who can give them that zero interest loan.
This human from LinkedIn is agreeing with you that there's something to prove on both sides. I'm of the opinion that there's a third group that's slowly creating itself. And I'd put myself in this third group, where you just kind of step back and look what's going on in these places. And I agree with you. LinkedIn user number 00457. What's up, guys? Like, let's just, can't we all just get along and make good decisions based upon actual data?
How about we talk about it and you have one job, and your one job was to keep the government running, regardless of what that is? I'm personally
That's funny. I like that. That's a good perspective. It's kind of like when I was growing up, my dad had a cash business. It was just like a small golf course. And so there was like a candy stand. And so there was a lot of cash that needed to be brought to the bank. And I would always be the person that brought the cash to the bank. And I remember bank tellers, this is before they had their automatic counters. They would be like 1, 2, and they would be so mad that they had to count money. And I was like, even then, even being a young person, I was like, isn't that like the whole job behind being a bank teller? Like, you count money, like that's your job. It's kind of fun.
Good job. I mean, and I look at Congress and I say, you have one job, and it is to keep this government running at whatever pace, level, funding source, like throw it all in there. It is whatever, however you get there, you should get there. And I don't care if you have to like stay up all night and do it 3 days in a row, you have to do it. Like, it's literally your one job, and we're failing the American people, and it's causing, and as we noted earlier in the call, it's causing harm to our industry. And it's also causing harm to individuals who aren't getting paid, who deserve the respect and the trust and the, however you want to phrase that, they deserve it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
So, and by the way, many of them are not just at home, eating bonbons and, cleaning out their closets. They are actually still going to work and not getting paid.
I didn't know. I guess I was ignorant to that. I assumed that Congress had to keep going to work so that they could work things out. But I didn't know if do you have to go to work when you. Anyway,
I think it depends on your job. So I don't purport to be the expert here, but yeah. I do know that many members of the military for sure still have to show up every day.
Oh yeah. Oh no. Everyone that I've been dealing with has. And if you think about it, it just kind of validates a lot of the statistics in the consumer market. The government shut down last Thursday, right? A week ago Thursday.
Yes.
Is that what it was? Or about then? Maybe it was Wednesday. Correct. Maybe it was Friday.
Somebody can fact check us, but it's roughly then.
If my inbox is a barometer for what's happening with consumers in the mortgage market who have homes and loans, which it is, right? And so we're a week in, and people are reaching out for assistance, so they know that they're not going to be able to make the bridge to the next date. No way, David Pearson. The elected officials still get paid, but the other people don't get paid.
No, that is a true statement. So
look at all this civics that I'm learning today. I love this.
So
it's not my area.
Actually, wow. I will speak up for one of our representatives, not my particular representative, but I did see it on Facebook, which must make it true, but it did come from his official account. Yeah. Has said he's not taking a paycheck because he doesn't think it's right as a congressperson to take a paycheck when other workers are not getting paid. And he said, we should feel the same level of pain. And so I don't know if that's actually physically, realistically possible. Like, I don't know the mechanics of, can you not accept your paycheck if they do it?
You have to put it in an escrow account with me. They all call me and we put it in an escrow. We held it for them until the day. That is so wild. I didn't know that. Does anybody else have fun facts about what happens during government shutdowns? I can tell you that from a servicing perspective, a lot of the approvals that we need to do the things that we do out on the street, especially with the Ginnie Mae umbrella, everything's on hold. Everything's on pause in that regard when this happens. And I always say that there's no real emergencies in mortgage servicing unless you're actually getting evicted from a house inappropriately. And I've only seen that a couple times along the way. But when you're running a business and all of the widgets are falling off the conveyor belt because they can't get to the next conveyor belt, that's definitely a thing.
It's definitely a thing, and it causes havoc because, one of the things I've always talked about in this business is the reason there's so much stress. It's not life and death, but it is everything that you own packed up in a box, including your goldfish. Right. And it's in a U-Haul outside. Look, mine are all right here. You can see I'm in my office today, and this is where I haven't unpacked from moving in here, 18 months ago. I still have boxes. But so you guys are just getting to see it today because I joined from my hovel instead of my up top. But anyway, the fact is it creates stress. And if you thought you were moving and you can't get flood insurance, or you can't get your approvals, or you can't get that exception made that needs to be done, it impacts your life, and it impacts probably 10, 12, 15 other people, because we do things in dominoes. We do not, it's not usually just the one loan. It's this loan that then impacts this loan, that then impacts this loan, and impacts that thing, and impacts all these other people's lives. So we are creating mass chaos. And I'm going to do the Brian Vieaux thing and say, now, speaking of mass chaos, we saw some mergers and acquisitions this week.
Oh man.
Since our last conversation.
Yes. Not US Bank, but Fifth Third Bank looks as if it is acquiring or in the process of acquiring Comerica Bank. Very interesting. These are both Midwestern regional institutions. The other recent acquisition that seemed to go on forever in the Midwest was the NYCB acquisition of Flagstar, and there was a lot of noise around that. What do we think about Fifth Third and Comerica coming together? What do we think that, what is the Power Rangers story about Fifth Third and Comerica getting together? Their powers combined creates.
Well, let's just talk about it in general. And there's some great people at both of those institutions that I happen. I think they have some opportunity. One of the things that you and I talk about when, even when we're off camera, is technology is changing the way that the industry operates. You did a great presentation this week. Thanks for letting me like sit in on it. But you did a great presentation this week, just talking about what's happening with technology and kind of the legacy things and where people are getting frustrated and kind of what the new looks like. But technology costs money.
Yes.
It's not an inexpensive investment. And I think that you're seeing companies look at how they can come together to maximize that investment that they're having to make and serve a larger group of individuals so that they can choose to make those investments and be able to compete against the Zillows and the, you know, new fintech folks that are in our space. You have to continue to do that. So I think that's one of the superpowers that comes out of this is they have now combined resources that they can invest and they can better serve people. And I think that's what you're seeing with a lot of these mergers.
I was just going to say to you, but it's all about the money at the end of the day. So the headline is 9th largest financial institution in the country. And maybe what we're highlighting is the lack of sustainability to hang out in the middle through these cycles, right? You know, is it going to be a bank? Is it going to be a tech bank? Is it going to be a bank that offers mortgage? You know, it'll be interesting to see, one, what they name it. I'm always interested in that. But two, kind of like the, well, we can talk about the next acquisition next. The marriage of the last acquisition next. But, you know, what are they going to name it? Because I'm Courtney. What are they going to wear? And then also, you know, what is going to be their shtick after that? Is it just to have a more regional presence? You know, and where do they go with that? Oh, here we go. I think Comerica has a larger commercial presence than Fifth Third and openly. Oh, this opens Fifth Third to Texas. That's great from a regional. That's very true. So Comerica used to be headquartered in the state of Michigan. We know a few things about Michigan and the Michigan Mortgage Bankers Conference in Frankenmuth. We've talked about it extensively. Also, they are headquartered, and that moved a couple years ago. Christy, that was like 2 or 3 years ago, that Comerica's headquarters moved from Michigan to Texas. So I think that that's a really, really great point in terms of coverage of their inevitable diverse banking and lending opportunities.
Yeah, it's, you know, the fact is, one of the things that we've seen, and I'm going to bring this back to technology because just a little bit, because one of the things that we've seen is if you're larger, you can do well, right? You get the economies of scale. If you're smaller, you know, in the mortgage space, why are folks like UWM and Rocket providing technology to brokers? Because they can't invest in it, right? As a single, you know, I was a broker when I started in this business, and as a single kind of person entity or a much smaller type entity, you can't go invest $5 million in technology and build your own. There has to be a way to leverage. And look, kudos to UWM and Rocket and others that are in that wholesale space that have built out really cool tech and provide it to brokers so that they can continue to be a sustainable and viable channel, right? We're better when we have more viable channels and better ways to serve people and meet them in the way that they wish to be served. But you have to solve for the technology issue. You have to solve for the product issue.
Go ahead. No, keep going.
No, I was going to say you have to solve for the product issue. And I think that's what Kurt brings up here, right? Commercial versus consumer. Right. And what products are you delivering and how have you allocated your balance sheet and what are you doing there?
Well, and we haven't seen a lot of players, and I get why, but I would just throw this out there, that are like, no, we're really good at this. Everybody wants to be really good at everything. Everybody wants to have, this is a stolen quote from Paul at CMG, the Cheesecake Factory of opportunity, right, from a financial perspective. And I think that a lot of these tech ecosystems are ultimately focused on how can I make an offer? How can I make an offer? How can I make an offer? How can I make an offer in terms of extending the business, right, that they have with these individual consumers? I think that you make an interesting point. And when you do think about, I would say that Quick and Rocket more so than UWM, they say they're a tech company. They hired a tech bro to run the whole thing and right, doing a great job. And I think that in mortgage, I think we have what is the god of January, Janus, where you have a door looking in the past and then a head looking into the future. I think in mortgage a lot, like we say we want competitive, this, that, and the other, but then we all use the same stuff.
You know, our competitiveness, our differentiator is our service. It's our it's the
I
way
think
we
it's our
configure
investment in our
technology.
consumer-facing and data technology environment. And I think the players that we consistently see on the top of the market are those that are smart enough to combine their forces to get to whatever end that they're going to. But how much you spend or how you present your back office to the consumer, I think is the core differentiator. And if you haven't done that, or you're looking to have that provided to you, it's just the same thing that the other guy has. So it is, I mean, it's a real interesting question around the cost of supporting a brand, right?
Well, but
Particularly,
that brings us to the that brings us to the lawsuit that was filed this week.
Oh, look at that. Look at you. Why don't you take us here?
You didn't even know you were doing it. But it brings us to the lawsuit that was filed this week that really says, hey, every lender is the same. They're sharing this information because of their use of one piece of technology. They are, now violating laws and rules and creating a place that's untenable for consumers because they're not getting the competition that they need. You're talking about it from a technology perspective, but because that they were using that same one piece of technology, that's opened the door for this lawsuit. Now, we don't know if they'll be successful. I think that they're, as a person who has used that particular piece of technology, I don't know that the data that's provided is something that allows me to really know what my competitors are doing, because there's so many other pieces than kind of your standard pricing. But also, by the way,
let's be very deliberate. We're talking about the Optimal Blue class action that was filed at the end of last week. And so, I mean, that's what, I mean, that's public knowledge. So I don't think that we're holding them out in any way, shape, or form.
No, but you think about the way that the technology provides it, and what information is actually goes into the system. I don't think they're giving you any trade secrets there. That, by the way, I couldn't get off somebody's website by just going and Googling what they say that their interest rates are. Most people are putting something like that out on their wide world. And so
I was having an off the record conversation with a friend of mine who was trying to research around this issue earlier this week. And we also had the discussion around, there are some things that feel very class action-y. So something is class action-y if there's what they call typicality between the people that were harmed, numerosity, there's enough of them that were harmed. And a lot of times it's very clear, concrete damages. And I think that that's actually where this fails. All of these customers didn't get charged $250 for using Optimal Blue, and that was bad, or whatever the case may be, right? At the end of the day, the concept of getting to these places is so highly regulated in our environment. There, you can't have a competitive perspective, and you are going to have thoughts that are built into those systems. There's models, but then everything that's available in the context of these types of things ends up being customizable and written offable by each of the entities. And if you look at the myriad of entities that were named in this thing, they're really shooting the net all the way out there. They've even named people that don't use Optimal Blue, which to me, as a former person who did this stuff, very messy. But you know what?
That is very messy.
You're a bank. You have money. I will sue you. So hopefully there's a class of folks that get out quickly, given the fact that they haven't used that piece of technology. But I like your perspective because I'm a humanist, but I also like the question, given there are so few options across the mortgage industry, are we harming consumers by not ... I don't know. I think it's a healthy question to ask.
It's a good question to ask when you think about what you're doing for the future, and as you think about your strategy and your differentiators. And this is what we think about when we're selling to loan officers to join our organization. This is why we're different. This is what we're doing. Is technology a piece of that? Is it how you do your pricing? Is it how you do your P&L models, or the retail model? Or there's so many things that you have to decide. So I think this is a good time to really think about, we're in strategic planning season, if you will, and budget planning season. So how are you as a company? How are you as an individual LO who runs your own company inside maybe somebody else's company, thinking about what your competitive advantage is and how you're going to articulate that? Because we're getting in a world that's shrinking. And I don't mean that from necessarily just from a perspective of the M&As that we've been talking about. And there's several others that happened this week. But we're also thinking about that from the standpoint of consumers have more choices. There are more people getting into our spaces, thinking about the fintechs that are going to get into our space. Look at Zillow Home Loans, right? That was not a competitor a few years ago. Look at how fast that they're growing.
Right.
There are so many choices that consumers have that if you can't articulate your value, then you might be going the way of the dodo bird. And so it might be technology, it might be your service, it might be the products that.
I would also say this, and this was a part of some materials that I had put together for earlier this week, but I'm going with it based upon this conversation. The typical consumer wants to be able to digitally access anything that they need right now. They want it to work right now, and they don't want to have to talk to somebody on the phone. They don't want to have to do any of these other things. And so I would just like also highlight that the energy and attention that it takes to pay attention to the customer experience at that level, I would challenge the mortgage industry and many people that are thinking about this. Do you have a team dedicated to that? Because I think that is something that is missing in a lot of mortgage technology and a lot of the consumer experience in mortgage technology, is that you can't just have people that are setting up the requirements for the loans. You can't just have servicing technology. We talked about this earlier this week, Christy, that just takes payments, right? It has to do more than that. And who are the people that are actually creating that experience? Because the tech folks can't do it. The lawyers, the compliance folks can't do it on their own. And, how are you investing in that to optimize what you do have as well?
This is a great question. I think that's one, like, people should go home and journal. I'm a big fan of the journaling and like letting things roll around in your brain. Yes. Like, journal on this, and then take it to your, take it either to your peers, to your leadership team, to wherever you can talk about it. Get some ideas in your head about what that looks like, and then take that out. And
I think that there's very few people that are really good at that too. We've got the marketing folks, we've got the loan officers who were really just cute little fancily dressed lead generators, right? You got all these things, but that online whole kit and caboodle, what does that look like?
Well, it requires that you get out of the trees and look at the forest. You got to get up at that 30,000 foot view, and maybe even a 50,000 foot view, and think about it. So maybe that's something that Robbie and the folks over at the Chrisman Commentary, they could put together a forum where people could do that. I mean, they are the sponsor of our Last Word podcast. I don't think we've mentioned them yet today, but we wouldn't get to have these crazy, amazing conversations without the work that Rob and Robbie and the team over at the Chrisman Commentary do. So we do appreciate them doing this, but I'm going to throw that into their suggestion box. Like, how do we create that conversation where people can talk about it? Maybe that would be a fun workshop for us to go hang out and do.
And also different, like, how does your organization do it? And how do you pull it together under the umbrella of your brand? Because you got a whole bunch of different P&Ls underneath of it. But
yes,
it is 1:31. And
I know we
were 1 minute late. So we hung out after class.
We stayed an extra minute. We don't repeat our audience.
Christy, you take the last word of this fine week in October.
Well, the last word for today is, I hope everybody has the most amazing weekend. Here in Austin, it is ACL. And my oldest daughter is in town. Not my oldest child, but my oldest daughter is in town. Her and her boyfriend, and we are going to go spend some time listening to music.
Nice.
And hanging out. So I hope everybody gets to have the most amazing weekend. I hope it's a beautiful weekend in Michigan for you, Courtney. You and Monty have a good time.
Yeah, we'll have a great weekend. We'll see you next week, everyone.
All right. Bye, everybody. And who knows how long we're going to get to hang out with you before the stream ends. So put your questions in the chat. Join us next week.
We'll see you next week. Goodbye.
We'll see you next week.
Leave the studio. Bye.